apparently One Piece players are really mad that Bandai is reprinting Manga Rares, and I'm here to kind of shed some light on this, give everyone the information they need, and really just give you the actual stance you should have. Now, I'm not telling you how you should or should not think, but I might just clown you for your opinion, which I am allowed to do. So let me know what you think about Manga Rare reprints down below before we hop into the video and see if your opinion changes based on some of the discussions we have. We're going to try and provide a little bit of a surface level review here as someone who has a lot of experience with Magic the Gathering, a game that largely has kind of cosmetified like their whole card base, and how honestly in some cases the base level rarity is more expensive than the kind of more exclusive foil and alt art versions, because there's so many alt arts now that it might actually be a relatively good thing that rares are being printed and exclusives are being provided different avenues of access, and how that also might provide good service to the collectors of the game, regardless of what that means. But so let's hop right into it. The first thing that we know is that from Vampire Gaming that Manga Rares are reprinted in the new reprint set PRB01. So shout out to that. A lot of great reprints coming out of there. I mean, just full art Sanji's peel off for all my Nami players. And explains a reveal gap. Sets 01 to 04 mangas will have differences highlighted, which is very important as well. That essentially means that you will be able to tell the difference between a original printing Manga Rare and one that got reprinted. So that's going to be very important for a conversation we're going to have in a second here. These are updated in OP05 as they had added security features with increases in card counterfeits, and can be seen on this Luffy below. How do you feel about manga reprints here? So I believe they're kind of talking about this bottom right section here, but Sakura Card Shop talks about how, you know, you're guaranteed a manga per case, which should kind of decrease some of the pricing here, a little bit of a guarantee, differentiated by a PRB10 stamp on the stars above rarity. So yeah, so it is kind of that section here. So we don't see it on the bottom left here, but yeah, the star above the rarity here. So that's how it's gonna kind of differentiate it. And since, you know, I'll click into this, since it's a high class set, I'd expect these versions to be much cheaper than their counterparts, which is nice because sometimes you just want some foil, you just want some fancy alt arts for your cards. And yeah, you know what, it should be expensive because at the end of the day, this is cosmetic. As long as the base version of the card is accessible and cheap, that is what I would want for all One Piece players here. If you wanted to pay the premium, pay for the cosmetics, but this shouldn't cost an arm and a leg either, in my opinion. But again, at the end of the day, as long as the base card is there, that's what it should be. So not sure where the pack hits are yet, but again, confirmed per case. Now, I think opinions like this are really where a lot of people started to get upset. So unpopular take from RJ Jacinto here, manga should never be reprinted. It should be exclusive to the original set they belong to. OPTCG should make them the reserve list. Now, okay. So the reason, this is coming from someone who's been playing Magic for over 10 years. I have had plenty of experience with the reserve list, the discourse around it. And for those of you who don't understand, what happened was originally Wizards of the Coast way back in the 90s, what they were doing is reprinting a lot of the high value cards because accessibility is king. You should promote accessibility within the card game that you have so that more players can get in. At that time, that wasn't necessarily evil. Gaming, TCGs, and nerd culture in general was just going through something different here. Magic the Gathering was made as a way to play in between D&D rounds, right? It's not like now in a world of battle passes and kind of Fortnite-ification of all games where everything is a reference to everything. Games are different now. So back then, this was a necessary evil that was done to kind of create a sense of collectability in the game because, you know, cards are TCGs, they're trading card games, but they're also collectible card games at some point. You wanted to promote the collectability and the chase of opening packs, and, you know, the whole conversation around whether or not that's gambling or not is something different, right? You're always skirting the lines when it comes to TCGs and packs themselves. But when it comes to creating a new reserve list, immediately I get baseline triggered by the fact that this is a horrible mistake. Now in gaming culture, and especially kind of downstream into TCGs, it's important to cater to the casuals. You as a person who constantly goes out to tournaments, always into the game, playing competitively and really grinding it out, you are not someone the game should cater to. Because when you cater to the casuals, more people will play the game. The casuals are the people that need to get invested into the game. They need to know that the local game store is near to them. It has constant One Piece events, and the One Piece decks that they want to play and buy into are also accessible in terms of pricing. But on the other hand, when it comes to reserve list, I think we can create a reserve list for cosmetics. Now, so that's where I kind of half agree here. So creating a reserve list, absolute no, not correct. But when it comes to creating it for cosmetics, okay, as long as you reprint the heck out of the base level card, then I'm fine with it. Manga rares like Manga Luffy, Manga Shanks, sure, they can be thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, heck, even more than that. But when it comes to the base levels of those cards, they should just be reprinted, right? They should be reprinted into the ground. No card should cost $50 per copy or $100 for a play set. Like, that's ridiculous, right? As someone who's coming from Magic the Gathering, who has paid hundreds, heck, maybe even, I don't want to say thousands, I'm not a legacy or vintage player, but has paid an exorbitant amount of money for their cards, right? To play in different formats. I don't want to see another game get into this. Vampire even comments down below, this was made by Magic when they first started to get people to buy cards in 1998. It was a different age. They already had been reprinting mangas like an OPO5 restock or the OPO1 boxes, which is also correct. You reprint your mangas, you increase them into the card pool, and you make it more accessible for people to get their fancy cards, because at the end of the day, that gets the then middle-aged casual to then hop in as well. You have the casual that's just getting into the game, the middle-strung casual that wants to buy their fulls and fancy up their deck because they know this is the leader, quote-unquote, that they want to continue playing. And for the collectors, you still have the base version. Now that we know that they're going to be separately stamped, we know that the original printing of that manga is going to be expensive because that is the original version. And I'm going to kind of short some proof in this as well. So Agent Lamb Chop, I mean, we're going to feature a couple of their tweets here because I wholeheartedly agree to a lot of these. If you bought a manga rare for any reason other than you wanted a dope piece of cardboard, I have no sympathy for your loss of value. You're probably one of those fools who are clearing Pokemon off Walmart shelves during COVID. So if you are buying One Piece cards to purely invest in and resell and upmark, I don't care about catering to you. I think you are the last person that should be catered to. You are a scum on the game, and you are genuinely increasing prices like that. If you are just holding on to them and reselling them at a crazy upmark value, you are one of the reasons the game has a negative. You are one of the negative pieces on this game. Collectability should be a thing. I get that. There should be chases to certain cards. You should not scalp cards and keep them away from people. You should not be buying cards in a collectible card game to scalp away and create a kind of soft stock market for them. Come on, grow up, okay? Grow up. It's a card game. Play the damn game, okay? And if one person I see tries to sell a first edition manga, I'm throwing hands. Now, I think this is perfectly fine. I think, like, now that we know that there is a difference, there is confirmed a difference between a first edition manga rare and a reprint manga rare, I think it's going to be very important to see, because as Bunny TCG points out, lower prices of other manga cards due to increased pulls, and then increase in original set mangas as they will be almost seen as first edition since PRB ones have different stamps. And we can see this in TCG Player directly from a Magic the Gathering example. So Polluted Delta, for those of you that don't know Magic the Gathering, you don't need much context. All I will say is this card specifically, one of the most fundamental cards in older formats, where this is a part of your resource system. So think of similar to Dawn. This was the original printing back in Onslaught set. That is the set itself. 45.52, right? This is for a non-foil. This is even if you can get a copy of it. I mean, Lightning Bolt Games only has a 1-of-1 copy regardless. This in a non-foil printing is 45.52, kind of TCG mid. Now, the reprinted version in the most recent set of where this card is legal is $14, which is perfectly fine. Because if you have the original printing, which is more expensive because collectors want original printings and they want to flex, sure. But then the reprinted version in the most recent set, especially just because of recency and everything, it's now in stock and in circulation. A card like Polluted Delta being $15 versus 45, great. This is what I want out of the manga rares, right? Now the manga rares don't need to go down to $10. They could be, if they went from $3,000 to $1,000. Sure, that's great, because then they're still an exclusive piece. They're expensive, but they're a bit more accessible to the person that maybe wants to splurge on like a manga leader and everything. We don't have manga leaders. I believe Zoro is the only manga leader that we have. But you're getting my point here. So kind of highlighting this from a first edition perspective, a first printing versus a more recent printing. I'm an advocate for reprints. I'm an advocate for accessibility in the game because I want more people to play these games. I want more people to want to kind of change up up a little bit and go into different decks. I want them to explore the card game so that ultimately everyone playing the card game just really benefits from that, because they're going to grow in their skills, they're going to engage in different content, and it's going to push more people up. More people playing the game because of reduced pricing is a net positive for the game. If you don't believe so, get out. I don't know what to tell you. You genuinely don't understand anything about card games. You don't understand much about gaming. Accessibility is key, and it should be across the whole board, right? Now, obviously, accessibility can be taken too far. We see that in large scale, like multiplayer games, in shooters and everything. That's a whole different discussion. From a TCG perspective, reprinting and accessibility is going to be a big reason to play. Agent Lamb Chops further says here, I kind of feel like y'all are forgetting this hobby is about collecting and not about flipping singles every time you open a pack. Now, of course, there's obviously that great feeling of, oh, I opened up an expensive card, let me sell it for credit. Great. So for the pack openers, that's one thing. But when it comes to playing, that is ultimately about, that is about what it is. You get your cards, you play them, and you build different decks with them. It's about collecting the game. For a lot of those people that are building collections, that are building, a full OPO1 collection, a full OPO2 collection, stuff like that. Not everyone needs to do that, but that's generally what it's about. It's a collectible card game, not an FCG. It is not a flipping card game. It is not an SCG. It is not a selling card game necessarily. It is about playing. It is about collecting, and that is the market that you want to have here. You're not about, you don't open a $5 card in your pack and then try and flip it for $7. Okay, just because there's no stock in it. That's a crappy practice, and I'll tell you what, like, capitalism is ruining so many people's lives. It's been a net negative for so many different people. It's only great for the rich, and for some reason, so many middle and poor class people just want to make decisions that do not benefit them and that only help the rich. If y'all want to make decisions in your hobbies, in your children's card games, in the One Piece TCG that only helps those that can afford the Manga Rares, then go ahead. Your loss. You don't know what you're talking about. But I think every one of you generally understands my stance when it comes to manga reprints at this point. I want them reprinted. I am very happy that they're differentiated, because that does create rarity for the previous ones. So it keeps both sides happy. We get reprints for accessibility, and for the collectors, it keeps, their original versions still just as expensive, if not more, to kind of differentiate that. So I think it's a happy middle ground. Just because your card went down by a couple $100s and it's still like thousands, I don't feel bad for you. I genuinely don't. You bought a case for a couple $100, and you flipped open to something that's thousands. Sell the card and make your money. You don't need this to artificially make you money. It's not a stock. You don't just build it and then when you retire you pull it out. Okay, just sell the card, make your money, and move on. Okay, I think people are a little too much here, but let me know what you think about Manga Rare reprints in the reprint set. Heck, let me know what you think about reprints in general in the One Piece TCG. I'm very much pro reprints, but I'd love to hear your thoughts against reprints. Maybe you are someone that is new into TCGs. This is the first one. I'm happy to have that conversation with you, because I'm telling you, it is a net positive for everyone involved if we just reprint cards, and again, make sure that the game we love and the game we play is accessible to new players and for current players alike.